What's up, and welcome back to the Chris Gates Fitness Podcast. I am super excited to share with you today my conversation with my client, Bryan. Bryan and I have been working together for 2 or 3 years now, and he has done an unbelievable job over the years of just fine tuning his habits to work towards the weight loss goals that he has. And he's seen tremendous progress. Actually, at the point of publishing this episode, Bryan is coming off of his most successful fat loss phase ever, his most successful cut, calorie deficit, however you want to call it. And so it was a perfect time for us to hop on Zoom and just talk for a little bit about his experience, what has worked so well for him. And, like I said, what he has been able to kind of fine tune, adjust, and create for himself in terms of developing healthy lifestyle habits. We talk a lot about the skill of eating in a calorie deficit and also the skill of not eating in a calorie deficit, which I think was a really interesting piece to the discussion. And then we also dove a lot into how to manage this stuff as a busy dad, as a busy parent. He has 2 kids, he has a career, lots of stuff going on at the house, and managing all of this and staying on track and losing weight sustainably and consistently, it's hard to do. A lot of people struggle with it. So I think you're really going to benefit from hearing from Bryan about how he's done it so far. And so, I don't want to belabor the point any further. We will dive into the discussion here, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, Bryan, thanks for hopping on today. I appreciate it, man. Honestly, this is something that I've wanted to, in particular, do with you for a while because we've been working together for so long. We have so much in common. So I appreciate you jumping on the podcast today. And I guess first and foremost, could you take a second to just introduce yourself to folks listening and a little bit about who you are, what you do, all that good stuff?
Sure. Hi, Bryan Mack. Born and raised here in Pittsburgh. Uh,
So
and
you're a
that's our
quality gentleman. That's what that means.
and that's our connection that dates back, what, 15, 16 years at this point.
I
Uh,
suppose, man, like if you factor in just like how long have you known someone on the internet? Yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
think it
that was
started on Twitter a long time ago.
2009. That's so
Yeah.
it's been a few years, but yeah, no, still live here in the Pittsburgh area. What else we got going? I'm a software engineer, manager of a software engineer, so I have a desk job. My life is a desk job. I sit right here in this seat every day for a number of hours. So it's hard to get myself going sometimes because you are just sitting,
Yeah.
and that's kind of I try to look for opportunities here to get myself out and moving. What can we do? How can we go about doing it? And that's always easier said than done. So that's kind of where I'm at. Years ago, I got into running, and that has been my main form of fitness for the last 20 some years, with other types of strength training thrown in here and there. There was a CrossFit phase when everybody did CrossFit back in the mid teens, and that fell off, COVID and everything like that. Got into Peloton during the pandemic. That was a lifesaver at that point, right? Something to do from the house that I already had that didn't have to worry about the inventory on to get, and that worked well. But nothing really stuck, other than running. And it would always go through the ebbs and flows. And living in Western PA, you can only run so many months out of the year unless you're going to bundle up and run in the snow,
Yeah.
which I've done. It's less than ideal, and I don't do that as much in my old age as I used to. So.
Yeah, what's funny is so my wife is from Wisconsin, and obviously like in the Midwest, flat, like actually kind of easier to run in the winter if you want to, but like we've
Mhm.
had some of her one cousin, they'll come and visit like once a year, and she is a massive runner. She does like those ultra marathons and stuff, like 50-mile races. It's crazy. And she comes here to run, and like every once in a while they'll come and visit in the winter, and then she's trying to run up like snowy and icy hills and because there's no flat roads here,
Yeah, there's nothing
so
flat around here.
it's a totally different dynamic to overcome. Whereas like in other places, if there's snow and ice out there, you still might be able to get a run in because it's largely flat, but
You're not going to
when you
slip
live
as
in
much.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, not when you live in Pittsburgh. Um, No, that's helpful background. And like, I mean, you kind of outlined a little bit of it there, but it's been working together for a few years. I'm wondering if you can remember, like in particular, the specific things that led to you saying, like, I mean, obviously you mentioned it. There's been an evolution to the different types of things you've done with fitness over the years. Did any like one or combination of things lead you to think like, maybe I want to try coaching and kind of get like the guided experience?
Sure. Yeah. It's always been an ebb and flow, and there's always periods of great self-motivation to keep doing it. But then when it's fallen off, it's hard to get going again when you're by yourself. And, when I did go to CrossFit, like it was great to have other people like helping me to go along, to encourage and all of
Yeah.
those things. And that's what I enjoyed most about that community at that time. But, once I stopped going there, like I didn't have that. And, my journey has always been controlling my weight. It always has been. Coming junior year of college, I was about 270 pounds and got into massive weight loss over a period. We don't need to go into the details. It probably wasn't the best choices at the time, but I was young and stupid. But it worked, and I've maintained that for over the years, and it's always kind of been fluctuating. And I always hit the points where I kind of hit like the 220-ish weight, gaining some of that back. Then I'm like, I need to do something about it, and I really just needed someone to help motivate me in the periods where I couldn't do it myself. And I think I remember, obviously we knew each other and online, and I remember you were talking about like the end of year special or something that came up one year, and I remember seeing that, and that's when I reached out. Like you were someone I know. It's hard to reach out sometimes. It's particularly not being comfortable. Like I've never done strength training to the point where I felt comfortable doing it, and I didn't know where to start on my own. And uh, there's always a little bit of embarrassment to ask sometimes.
For sure.
But knowing that we had crossed paths before, it made it a little bit easier. And that's kind of what I reached out to. Would have been 2.5, almost 3 years ago now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I appreciate you sharing that, man. I think that is like a very legitimate thing. Like feeling comfortable asking for help. A lot of people don't, and I think it's like a particularly a dude thing. Like I think like guys like just don't like to ask for help for stuff. You know what I mean?
Especially something that's, masculine, right? Like when
Yeah.
you kind of have that trend, like, I don't know what to do. Like, I still have my comfortability going to gyms and doing it if there's other people around, because even though I've been doing this for a couple of years, I don't, I'm not quite comfortable. Like, I don't feel like that. I don't feel like that. I'm like, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I totally get that. Um, I think women are much more able or open to saying like, this is something I want help with. This is why I'm going to reach out to this person and share and share and
Mhm.
share with them, where like, God, men just have a harder time doing that. Um, and you and I are probably hardened through 30 to 40 years of being Pitt fans that like, we don't like to open ourselves up too much.
We openly bring in pain though.
Yeah.
Like that makes it actually a little bit easier. Like, what can be worse than that? What can be worse than finishing the season like we did last year? Well, okay, we can move forward from there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We willingly suffer enough through some of this stuff, but well,
Self-inflicted.
the irony though is that yes, I mean we've worked together for a few years now, and you're coming off of well, I say you're coming off of, but we're actually getting back into a fat loss
Mhm.
phase now. But you're coming off of I mean we both reflected on it. What I think has been your most successful cut that you've had, like this from my vantage point as your coach, like the level of consistency that you took into it, obviously the progress that you experienced, like it just seemed to be the most predictable, the most consistent, the most efficient cut that you've done. Because when you work together for a longer period of time, and this might be helpful for people listening, like if your goal is weight loss, we're not trying to lose weight for 3 straight years. Like we're not just doing that. Like there, you got to kind of ebb and flow. Like we've said ebb and flow a few times, and that's appropriate because you got to kind of go through different, evolutions of things so that you're focused on overall health. But like, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's been the most successful one that you've had. Curious to just know like how you're feeling about it at this point, because we are now about to get into like the second half of it. So curious to hear about like how you're feeling about it now, and what you feel maybe made this one different than uh, ones that you've tried in the past.
Yeah, it is the ebbs and flows, and it's a great thing to talk about. There's I've always historically had good luck in the summer, and not good luck, but like consistency in the summer. It's lighter later. It's easier to take the dog for a walk. It's easier to go do all of those types of things and get out and be moving more. And getting out running. And I've always seen good weight loss when I've really been trying and counting calories and everything as we come into the summer. But then that's the point in the summer hits. Usually there's that goal of like going on vacation, everything you're working for, and once you hit the goal it's sometimes hard to get motivated to keep going beyond that because, well, like I met my goal at that time. And yeah, I might have other ones, but you also got that satisfaction of hitting the one. And I always tend to, find myself going back the other way as we get into the fall and Halloween and the holidays and everything like that. And that's been hard. And I've done this up and down many times, many years over and over. 2 years ago, I had a pretty good cut phase here, and then I remember just through other events that had happened towards the summer, it fell off and went back up, and here we are again. So really trying now to get back into it, to keep that motivation, to keep that goal going, to try to make this winter not be the peak again, and trying to keep it more consistently low with where I've been up to this point and everything that I've done. Like, you just feel better, and I feel good where I'm at and the progress we've made so far this year, and looking to kind of keep that going here.
Yeah, I like the cadence in which it's gone so far because we took a few months ahead of vacation that you had planned. And then that vacation hit and we took, you call it whatever you want, diet break to
Mhm.
maintenance phase, whatever however you want to phrase it. We took like about a month there to back off a little bit, which I think can be helpful after a few months. And now have identified, maybe another month or two of a fat loss phase here moving forward before we make that transition. But with all of this stuff, like people, and you, I feel like you've been able to sharpen these tools for yourselves where you just talk through it. Like a lot of times people think, I want to lose weight. I want to get to X amount of weight. And then you get there. And then what happens? It's like, now what? And
Now what? Yeah, do you stay? Do you keep going? What do you do? And that's almost harder. Right?
it is. I'm glad you said that. It is because, um, managing your body weight, managing your health in each circumstance is a skill. So losing weight and understanding how to track calories and be in a calorie deficit and hit your workouts and do all these things consistently to lose weight is a skill. But then transitioning to maintenance and being able to more so focus on, okay, I'm not trying to see the scale go down necessarily. I'm trying to eat a bit more. I'm trying to incorporate a bit more flexibility,
Mhm.
but not have it spin off the rails. Like that's an entirely different skill on its own because now you do have a little more flexibility with your diet, but how do you manage that? Do you eat more of the nutritious foods you have been eating, or does it turn into like indulgences that like I didn't let myself have like the cookies, the cake, the ice cream, so now I'm just gonna bring all that back in? I think that's what a lot of people tend to do a lot of the time, and then
Guilty.
that's what causes the yo-yoing.
Yeah, definitely guilty of that. I've when we get into the fat loss phases and we kind of find the numbers and the macros and everything that works, and it's easiest for me of having a routine. Like I'm somebody who can eat the same breakfast and lunch every day and really leave myself room for dinner. That it can be pretty much anything, and that's easy to do with two kids, and nobody wants to eat the same thing all the time, or even amongst the four of us wants to eat the same thing. So that kind of leaves some room. But then when I have those numbers, I'm like, oh, I can always hit the numbers with this. But now that I have more calories, well, I can have other things. And that's the hard part to try to say, like, no, you don't need that Kit Kat. But I
Yeah.
might have that Kit Kat, especially when there's about 47 of them full-size bars laying around Halloween.
And that's going to be here soon
Butterfingers.
enough. That'll be here.
Butterfingers for me.
That'll be here soon enough, Brian. It's not that far away.
Crazy. Yeah, Halloween stuff's already up at Lowe's and Home Depot. So
Yeah, and for a sec, can we pause on that? It's absolutely ridiculous. Like we just went to Costco and they have Halloween stuff. As a parent, like I get what they're doing from a business perspective. Kudos to you. you're making your money Costco, but you're making it exponentially harder for me as a parent to walk through Costco without spending $600. That's just not fair. It's not fair.
You don't want the 12-foot giant skeleton? I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah, my kids do. They have like we were just there over the weekend and they had like all these like Disney Mickey Mouse
Mhm.
like Halloween figurines right at the entrance. It's the first thing you have to walk past with your kids. And of
They know what they're
course,
doing.
yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. But no, yeah, I mean, I think like I actually do think eating at maintenance or finding a way to eat in a slight surplus and keep it controlled, I would argue it's actually harder to do than being in a calorie deficit to lose weight because you get like you get the instant feedback of being in a calorie deficit where like I eat in a calorie deficit
Exactly.
consistently, the scale goes down, the progress pictures look better, the waist measurements go like you get that instant feedback that you don't get with eating at a maintenance level or being in a slight surplus. So it's like harder to know in those other uh,
Mhm.
pursuits, like where do I draw the line? Right? It's just harder to know that. So I think it's actually harder to eat that way.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It is that it's that gratification of stepping on the scale and seeing the weight go down that makes it easier to keep doing that thing. But when nothing is changing, or you might see an uptick and down, but it's all kind of on there, like just mentally, there's not that same satisfaction, and it is very difficult to, oh yeah, I didn't do anything, right, kind of thing, and it's hard to keep that going. Um, and I know for me, like, there's always going to be that. It's always going to be that up and down. Just how do I find the best way to keep myself motivated to minimize that so that the peaks aren't as high and the valleys aren't as low, and like, we can kind of keep it within a certain range as we go then, as opposed to going up 10, going down 15, and kind of the back and forth that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you've done, as time has gone on, better and better with that because nobody's going to jump into it and be perfect. When it's a skill you have to develop, it's something that's going to take time. It's going to take making
Mhm.
mistakes, troubleshooting and learning from those, and then just figuring it out, as you continue to move forward. So I think it's something that you've gotten a lot better at. And I noticed that this time around because you were the one that identified it, but we did the cut and then you had your vacation and before we transitioned then back into cutting again, you said like I'm starting to pick up on some of these things that I've done in the past that now like this time I want to get ahead of it. I don't want to let like this habit or this bad habit like creep back in. And so like that to me was a sure sign that like your
Yeah.
skill with this is just continuing to get better and better. And that's how it goes. It's a gradual thing.
Yeah, and after doing a cut for a long period of time, like getting towards the goal that, it was a 3 or 4 month cut, right? And so motivation is going down, and by taking vacation, going to beaches and all the things like that, like that was fun, that was enjoyable, and it's sometimes hard to get back to that. And knowing that this was going to be one of the instances where I wasn't probably going to be able to do that alone. That's kind of why I'm reaching out and saying like, let's do this again. Let's get back into this here, just to not let that momentum go too far away and like jump back on it here before it's starting back over again.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm interested, and I think people listening would be really interested because to hear about how you've managed a lot of this as, I mean, you're a parent, you mentioned you have a career. I know you even have like kitchen renovations going on at the house right now. Like
As
you
we
got,
speak.
yeah, you got a lot going on. So like, how has it been? This is kind of a broad question, but like, how has it been for you, not only figuring out how to do this stuff on your own for yourself, but then finding ways to manage getting your workouts in consistently, hitting, your goal with your diet, doing these things amidst being a dad, having kids, having a career, like all these variables that pop up.
You know what? The workouts have and everything have actually been the easiest part of it
Hmm.
there. There are I've always managed to find time to do that. It's just I've ate like crap along with it, kind of thing. So it's never not working out and doing those things. But kind of as a family, like we've made it somewhat of a family time on occasions where we got a treadmill, we have a bike, we have all the weights down there. Is like when I'm going to do my thing, everyone else can come downstairs too. Like, we might, like, one might be walking the treadmill, one of the kids might be riding the Peloton and watching something on TV. But like, at least all going together as a family to do it has made that easier, and convincing all of them to do it hasn't been that difficult. Like, they don't do it all the time, but Katie and the boys will come down and do it very consistently alongside. And that makes it easy. It's not like I have to go away and I'm not spending time with them at that point. That it's become somewhat of a family activity for most part during the week. So it is easier to step out and go do that, that I'm not ignoring them, or I'm not like, okay, I need to go do this. You guys go do your thing for the moment. And that's helped a lot from that perspective. Um, but as far as the nutrition, that's always, like I said, that's always been the hardest part. And just finding how can I make this work when we have the chaotic life of taekwondo and baseball and volleyball and everything else going on during the week. And that's kind of how I've set my nutrition up. I was like, I do eat same things for breakfast every day, same things for lunch every day. And as I've talked to you, finding cottage cheese right now seems to be a very difficult thing. Aldi doesn't carry it anymore. I can't find it at Costco either, even in any sort of size. But that's like my breakfast and lunch are around there. And if my protein is 150 for the day, I can usually come out of lunchtime with 107, and about 1,000 calories to work with when we're in the cut phase. And that pretty much opens up that I can do whatever for dinner. I can make reasonable choices. We can go out, we can cook at home, but I don't have to do something special for me
Mm-hmm.
and then it's something different for everybody else, which is always hard when you're the one when you're cooking, right? Like, you don't have to make two different meals then. It gives me a lot more freedom and bandwidth to say, hey, Ian, we're gonna have this tonight, or we're gonna have that tonight, and it gets me where, like, I have room for it to land. It works. I stay within my numbers, and that's been the easiest way for me, so that after lunch, when the kids come home from school, I'm not constrained really to what I need to do. That it's pretty wide open, and just with some basic reasonable choices, I can land within it.
Yeah, that man, I love that. I think I feel questions about that quite a bit about like well how what do I eat? What does my family eat? And like I think the standardization of your diet and the way that you just mentioned it is such a massive unlock because I think people think that you have to have or you require massive amounts of variety in your diet on a regular basis. And I do think that that's true. But I think like if you zoom out, most people probably find that you, for each meal, probably eat 80-90% of the time, like 3 to 5 variations of a meal,
Mhm.
right? Like, and I think it actually, the variations increase as the day goes on. I think most people probably eat the same thing for breakfast every day anyway. Like most people are just like starting the day, what's quick? What can I get in? Let's get on with the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like lunch might be different because depending on where if you work, you're going out to lunches for your job, or like maybe if you're bringing stuff, it makes it easier to standardize things. But I still think that like whether you bring it yourself or if you're going out to eat, you're probably choosing relatively like this one of the same like 3 to 5 meals. And I think like if you can identify that for yourself, it allows you to make some tweaks to those meals to just make sure that you're getting enough protein, like getting in enough of the
Mhm.
things that your body needs and controlling calories in a way in which what you said it was perfect. It's like it takes essentially the guesswork out of things and it lets me think about for dinner, okay, there's the opportunity for variety. What can I have? Nothing's really off limits. I'm able to really have that with the family and the kids and like just be able to say, what do you guys want to have for dinner? Right. That's what everybody wants to say. Like, what are we having for dinner tonight? And we can just make the meal together and it not be a super restrictive experience, but you get there by basically standardizing the beginning of your day.
Yeah.
And I think it's such an I've been eating that way the same way for years too. I think it's such an unlock for progress.
Yeah. It takes the thought out of it there, that
Yeah.
it's it's hard to count calories, in particular when you're looking to hit macros like protein. Like, how am I going to get enough of them? Like, there is that those first couple times of those phases, like, what can I have that's going to get me the most with the least, right? The most protein with the least calories, so that I can try to eat physically as much as I can during the day to feel full. What is that balance? What are those numbers? And when you kind of find the things that work for you, that you know you can eat the same thing for 8 months and not care, and they're like, like it makes it pretty easy. Because then it's like, yeah, 1,000 calories. You can go to pretty much any restaurant and find something that's going to be under that you enjoy eating. It's not like it's just one or two things. Like you can really open that up. Like I could take anything and put buffalo sauce on it, and it'll work for me. Like buffalo chicken, yeah, just make it grilled, throw some sauce on it. Great, we're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And even that, like diversity in the meals that you prepare just by like seasoning it or saucing it a different way.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned buffalo sauce. I love that. I get this guacamole salsa at the grocery store, which is so good. But even if like you wanted to do like an Asian style, you could do, like soy sauce on it or whatever. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
you could take the exact same thing and make it taste distinctly different day
Just
to
with a couple of
day.
different toppings, and
Yeah, yeah, and as long as the toppings aren't, adding 200 calories to it, like,
exactly.
you got to be careful with that. And those are where instances where you weigh and measure things out. But yeah, it's not as I think people mentally make it more complicated than it needs to be. It's just like identify what those things are. And I also love that you said like I know by dinner time I've had 100 and some calories. Or I'm sorry, 100 and some gram. That'd be a rough
Yeah,
day.
right.
I've had 100 and some grams of protein, right, going into dinner. Uh, that's so helpful too, right? Like you and I do it the same way. Like I know when I go into my dinner that my breakfast got me like 40 grams of protein, and I eat 4 meals a day, so then my other 2 meals got me another 40 plus. So I have 120 grams of protein before dinner, and it's like I need to get another 50 to 60, and I have dinner and a late night snack to make it happen. Like it makes it so much more simple. So I think that's a really good tip for people listening.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, how old are your boys? What are their ages?
13 and 10.
13 and 10. Okay, so you're like that next life phase ahead of me as a parent because mine are 5, 3.5, and 2.
Mhm.
Okay. And so like I'm at the point with my girls where uh they are taking interest in exercising and strength training because dad does it, because mom does it.
Mhm.
But they're like it they're gonna hurt themselves if they go into the gym. Like I can't let them go into the gym yet. So every once in a while they'll be like, Daddy, can we exercise? And we go down there and like we do some like really light stuff, body weight stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. But I'm excited about getting to that next phase where you are, where it's like they want to participate in it and they can, right? Like
Mhm.
they can actually do it. So I think that's so cool that you've built that with your kids and your wife. And I think when you were talking through that, it made me think about when I was a kid. It was kind of similar to how we manage things over here. Like we're not all outwardly talking to the girls about like you need to lift weights and you need to eat protein and because of this and like you got to manage, like it's not super, like we don't talk about it, we just do it and they
Mhm.
see us doing it. And I remember when I was a kid with my parents, like I would watch Penguin games in the basement, and during Penguin games my dad would be on the Nordic track. I remember that. And so like I think as a kid I probably was just like, oh, this is an important thing to do, right? Nothing beyond that. It's just like my dad does it. It's probably something that I should do, is
Yeah.
think about moving my body, right? My mom would always go on walks, and I remember that too. And it probably just like without noticing it made me think like I should probably be moving my body. Do you notice that some of that going on with your kids where like
I
they're maybe just more conscious of it?
definitely. Yeah, like they will be the ones who ask like, "Hey, can we go do work? Can we go work out tonight?" I'm like, "Sure, let's go do that." And they're like, "Oh, I just might ride the bike instead of working out." I'm like, "Okay, you're moving, you're doing something," and they'll go off and do that. And you know, some of the things that have made it even a little easier for them is like the way that the Peloton bike's positioned downstairs. Like you can see the TV, so Josh can watch the Pirate games while he does it, or they've added so you can watch YouTube on the Peloton now,
Oh,
or like Disney Plus or something like that. So Sam will come and he'll fire up one of his shows, and he'll sit there and watch and just ride the bike. So he's doing something while he was doing like still getting the screen time that he might have been doing anyways, but he's moving, he's keeping active in some ways. And so it's like, sure, you're gonna come down and just moving. that's great. Like when we take the dogs for W, okay, I had to spell it. She's sitting next to me right now, or she'll know. But taking family ones of those, and just like let's go take Zoe for the was it like 1.3 mile loop that we'll go do every day with the dog, and we'll try to convince them to do it there. Sometimes it's a death march, but we get them out and they come and they just chit chat the entire time. And so it is good family time then as well. Like we've tried to associate all those with like spending time together as a family, and that seems to resonate and have worked.
Nice. Yeah, I love that, man. I also wanted to ask about, and this is a selfish question for me to have you talk about it because I feel like once a month you have some, we always talk about non-scale victories in our check-ins. Like
Mhm.
once a month you have some, and I don't want to say any of them because I want to hear them from you, but you have some type of experience where you're like, oh, I did this thing and I didn't even think about it. And then afterwards, I was like, whoa, that was like a heavy thing to lift. Or like my kids were like, how did you do that? So I wanted to ask you, of like the non-scale victories you've shared, does any one or two of them stand out to you as like, oh, that was a moment where I realized like, hey, these things that I'm working on put into practice, like that was a very, like impactful or noticeable moment.
You know, it's probably like the category when I'm just doing everyday things, but finding them considerably easier that you
Mm,
wouldn't think of. And even more so probably at the beginning than now, because now after doing this for 2.5 years, it's almost become the normal. So like I have to like remind myself, like, hey, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to lift this slab of concrete steps and move them to the bottom of the yard kind of thing, or
yeah.
take a miter saw off a shelf that's at 5 feet high and be able to like put that down just because of the awkward position. But like now I can do that fairly easily, kind of thing. And it's reminding myself that, I used to not be able to do these things. And that's where I find those to be the best victories, just the things in everyday life that I just do now without thinking about it, but trying to be mindful that I used to not be able to do those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like every time you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you're like, "Hey, dude, by the way, I did this thing." I'm like, "Let's go!" Like you threw like a hundred pound like bag or like I remember there was one was like a huge ladder or something
Well,
like that. You just
the massive ladder. And I'm just like, okay, like, oh, okay.
yeah, I think that was my favorite one because you were just like I didn't realize it in the moment until like while I was carrying it, it was like, "Oh, this is actually pretty impressive."
Yeah, and doing the kitchen renovation right now. Some of the demo we were doing last week, like the bulkheads that they had built above the cabinets were 2 by 12. So these are giant pieces of wood, and they're 12 feet long that they have down there. And like I'm, more easily able to like carry those around and move them out of the house than I would have been before. Just all the moving that we had to do with furniture and of cabinets and things like it's made life easier in a lot of ways doing this without having set out to achieve that. There's become victories.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. There's often a pretty positive trickle down effect that comes from working on this stuff. And I see it all the time where, people want to lose, maybe you want to lose 20 pounds and you lose 20 pounds, but along the way, you actually find that like different things that happen throughout the process actually were way more meaningful and enjoyable than seeing what the number on the scale ended up being at
Mhm.
the end of it. Like and all those things you mentioned are great examples. Like, if you like gardening outside and you notice that like your back is always killing you bending over, pulling weeds, or like your legs are shaking because, you're on your feet for so long. And then kind of like without you knowing it, working on these things leads you to just be so much more capable in those situations. That's the real magic of it. It's not always what the number on the scale says.
And that's something that's hard to get to sometimes.
Mm,
That mental block of like it doesn't have to be the number on the scale.
yeah.
For the first 20 years of doing this weight loss thing that have gone up and down, it was hard to not see movement on the scale. And like when we start working together, yes, I'm doing things that are losing weight, but yes, I'm building muscle. So the scale isn't moving. And that was a really hard mental block to get around. Like I've for so long have always thought like this number has to go down or I'm not doing something correctly.
Yeah.
And there are still moments of that, but it's easier to come around now. Like, but I've achieved these other things, and I've seen other results that isn't the only metric. It's still one, and it's a fairly important one in my mind, but I can see past that now for all of the other important ones that have come along with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And tracking other metrics helps too, right? Like we've, since we have so much data on
Hmm.
you, like we've been able to identify, like, okay, you're at this weight, but when you were at this weight a year ago, like your waist was an inch and a half larger, right? Like, so we have like,
Yeah.
or like we can compare progress photos from August 1st of 25 to August 1st of 23 and say like, you know, we clearly have visual changes here that even though maybe the scale is the same, you are you are not the same, right? Like it helps to uh, I think tracking more than one data point helps over time if you do it consistently enough to solve a bit of that relationship with the scale. But like you said, it's never that's never going to go fully away. I don't even I I don't step on the scale unemotional every day. Like everybody has some type of emotion tied to it. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of how it goes. Well, I have two more things, man, that I wanted to ask you about. And the first one, because we promised each other we would talk about it. We are massive sports fans. Part of how we got connected on the internet way back in the day was because of Pitt and Pitt football. And Bryan's shirt is beautiful, and I thank him for wearing it here. But yeah, man. What? So, and it's actually my tie-in, interestingly, to like, how you manage things throughout the year. Because I know for me, during football season, the diet and exercise thing can get a bit more challenging, just because I do love football and I go to football games and I go on road trips and I tailgate and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
um, how are you feeling going into that season of the year? And then also, I need to know like your best case, worst case, what happens this football season?
You know, having a routine. Like, yes, there's games on Saturday, and yeah, game day, and all the other things that you can watch, whether it's at home or on there. It's just kind of standardizing what I do and going into it. That having kids, there's not a lot of time to go and tailgate. So a lot of times we'll show up, we'll park 45 minutes before the game, we'll go in and we'll go home. And it's fairly easy again to control my diet and doing those types of things on those days when I'm not just sitting around a tailgate all day and just having burgers and Chick-fil-A nuggets or whatever the spread happens to be. Like, I just go, I do the game, I go home and kind of carry on with my day. So that actually makes it fairly easy having those 7 weekends where those types of things pop up. It's not too bad. And the Steelers, I just would rather listen to that on the radio and get things done around the house because, well, we all know how that's going to go. 9-8, and the standard is the standard. So.
That is true. Yeah, I don't know what to think about the Steelers. Everybody is trying to convince me that Aaron Rodgers is actually going to work out this year, and I will wait. I will wait on that. And it's very weird with my wife being from Wisconsin and being a Packers fan. It's very weird that Aaron Rodgers is now here in Pittsburgh and the quarterback of the Steelers. Like we're navigating that together as a family, and it's very strange. Uh, but
It's yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be strange. But yeah, best case, worst case, man, is what's gonna happen with the Pitt Panthers?
Oh, I mean, anything is fair game after starting 7-0 and then losing the last six in a row afterward, including, you know, a bowl game where your fourth string quarterback could have won the game had that they played to win and not to lose. That's on the coaches. But yeah, we'll see what progress they've made this year. Best case, something like a 9-3. There's always going to be the games. There's some of the positions, as we learned last year, like one injury or a couple injuries on the offensive line, that their depth isn't there anymore because uh, those folks can go play elsewhere and make more money on there. So you don't necessarily have the depth in some of those positions as the other schools would. So 9-3 maybe. Yeah, 7-6. I think it'll be a winning season. There's enough winnable games out there as long as they can stay healthy.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going 9-3. That is best case, but
That's
I'm gonna just gonna go with best case because this is the time of
let's do it.
year.
Why not?
Yeah, it's this time of year with football where it's like no, nothing has happened yet that says I can't be irrationally optimistic. So I'm just
That
gonna do that until I'm not allowed to. And
exactly.
yeah, that's the
Yeah, let's they'll beat Duquesne and we're gonna go 12-0 and it's gonna be great. Then maybe we lose to West Virginia 2 weeks later and and that's the bottom of it, right? And we'll be 3-9. We're not gonna lose West Virginia. I should have said that.
no, don't do
I
that.
should have
Don't
worn
put
my
that out there.
13-9 shirt.
No, we're not gonna lose to them. Don't put that out there. We don't need any bad juju against the
No.
Mountaineers. Well, last one for you, man. Just curious, for folks listening, who, maybe are trying to develop the habits that you've developed, see the progress that you've seen and be able to do this, over the long term. Any advice that you would give to someone who struggles with being consistent? You've obviously done and developed a lot to be able to have the consistency yourself. And that's arguably the thing that holds most people back, right? Is finding ways to be consistent. So does anything stand out to you as like, this is a tip that I think or a recommendation I think could really help somebody to be more consistent?
Yeah. Bringing it back full circle about kind of how we started this, it's okay to ask for help, right? I wouldn't have been able to do this alone. I wouldn't have been able to navigate these things or the ups and downs, maybe periods of it here and there. But it was okay to reach out and ask for help. And I've had a blast working with you here in the last 2.5 years. Like I look forward to this, and that's why I was excited to jump on. Is we exchange videos and we exchange emails, but we never get to talk about some of these things, and we can cover a lot more talking about it than just sometimes in the emails that go in passing. But it's that's what worked for me was having someone else that helped me hold myself accountable, and that's why I think I've had the success that I've had.
That's awesome. Well, I've had a blast too, man, and this was fun. So thanks for hopping on here. And yeah, I'm excited to see how things progress in this latest cut, man. So thanks for jumping on. I appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you. Thanks for having me.